and completed the work, and others that just kind of did their own thing.
Yeah.
Right.
And I was listening to one mom saying she thinks that they're losing out so much on the whole social interaction thing.
Oh my
So
gosh.
Sure.
the year lost of all of that social growth and, you know, personal development that you get by being at school and interacting with your peers, that is really setting them back too.
Yep. I feel like it's very undervalued,
Right.
that social interaction.
Right. I'm glad to see so many people are outside. It makes me wish I had gone outside.
Well, I am so close to this lake that the waves, if I had hearing aids, I'd put them in right now so I could really hear everyone. But so we have a special guest today, Karen Spinti. She is a rock star. I admire you, Karen. You're a very, very hard worker. And
Thank you, Janine.
how long have you had your license now?
I got my license in April of 2018, so it's been just 2 years and a couple of months.
Okay, and I remember, and Karen, I know I've told this story a million times, but when Karen first started as a real estate agent at KW, I would drive by that office, the market center, early in the morning, or I would be there myself for whatever reason. And then late at night, I would be driving by to go somewhere, and I'd look in that market center, and there was Karen. I mean, I knew it. She would be there. It could be 7, 8, sometimes 9 o'clock at night, because she had a desk that you could see the back side of her as you're going down Silver Spring. And Karen was always there. She was the first to volunteer to do any of our open houses at JSG, and she did several.
I did it for a weekend, so.
Yeah, for a weekend, always the first one to raise her hand, to get in there and learn. But more than anything, I think you're a great example of, and I myself, you know, can be the same way. Like, you were not one to fail to thrive. Like, you went out there and you actually did the motion. You did a lot of educating yourself and going to all of that, but you set it into motion, which is the scary part, I think. So if you could just tell us about yourself, Karen, just start out with maybe what you've done before you did this and what your first couple years, what that experience has been like for you.
Sure. Okay. Well, I came from a sales background, and I had done territory sales for office equipment and then sales management in that industry. And then I sold art for 21 years because I had a partner who was a painter and a illustrator and a fine artist. So I dealt with all of our clients, and some of it was corporate and some of it was personal, and we would have a lot of shows and open houses. And so I think I'm a person that is very comfortable talking to other people. I grew up in a family of 7 kids, and I'm the youngest. So I was the one that was always expected to talk to adults, even though I was little. And so I was never allowed to just, you know, run to my room and hide or anything like that. So I definitely parlayed that into a successful first year, I guess, because I just wasn't afraid to do whatever it took to connect with others and let them know what I was doing now. And I did have some contacts. I had a database from when I was selling art that I brought into my first year, and just started with what I had. I just felt like if people are buying art, they also know people that are buying homes. And, you know, I think a lot of people come into this from teaching backgrounds, administrative backgrounds, whatever it is. That's the first place that you want to start, is all those personal connections that you have developed over your life. Those are the first people that you want to reach out to and let them know what you're doing right now. And so my first big mailing was just a photo of myself saying, I've joined KW and this is what I'm doing now. And I mailed it to everybody I knew. And then just started building my database. I had the good fortune of the Market Center being open and all of these trainings being available. So I went to everything, really took advantage of everything that was offered in the Market Center, and some speakers that were brought in that said some very wise things about just your first year, if you're not super busy, just work on building your database. So that's where I started. And then, as Janine said, I did 4 open houses every weekend, and not knowing really what to say, I used scripts quite a bit. So what we would do in productivity class when I started a lot was role play. And you can do that now, even though we're all kind of distanced. We can do that on Zoom calls with other people, or we can connect outside with other agents. So just reach out to other agents and say, hey, can I practice scripts with you? That helped me a great deal to know what to say at open houses. So it wasn't just them walking in, me showing them the house. It was, you know, hi, are you working with an agent yet? That was one of the first things out of my mouth, so that I knew whether in talking to them, I was going to be potentially representing them in their search, or if they already had somebody that they were going to be telling about this house. So I would say, echoing. Why am I echoing? Reach out to everybody that you know and do put in the hours. For me, I had to. I was the sole provider for my fiance and his kids, and we were keeping them in private school, and it was just a matter of, I have to work this hard, I have to make this work. But whatever your reason is, you know, your reason for being here, your reason for doing this, put pictures of those people or those things on a vision board and put it in front of you. Put scripts up above your desk where you're talking to people, and look at those frequently in between calls, because it's a great reminder of what you want to be saying over and over again that works, and why you're doing this, the reason for needing to be successful. And I think for me, the financial need to be successful at this was my biggest driving force. So whatever that is for you, whether it's, you know, wanting a new fresh start, doing something that you love, and then having the ability to schedule your days the way that they work for you. I think that's a huge advantage of being a real estate agent. Now I'm much more balanced. I'm not in the office at 7 in the morning or 7 at night or 11 at night. We're all doing this from home now. So it's shifted for me so that I can work more from home more comfortably, and talk to people more casually. And it's just, it flows out of me now in a natural way where it wouldn't have if I hadn't practiced all those scripts initially.
And that's really interesting about the scripts, because I have heard people that have said, I actually don't use scripts and I do this on my own. And my response is, and that's a script.
Right.
Whatever you're saying on your own is a script. So when you first start memorizing or utilizing scripts, it is extremely uncomfortable. It does not feel like yourself, but you need to do it, because then as you get seasoned, it will become more natural and you're going to then integrate your own style. But at first you need to do that. And you are very good about using scripts, and I've seen it firsthand, and that does help.
I did have a couple scripts taped up above my desk at the office, so that helped me a great deal when I would follow up after an open house. I was able to just follow the script instead of fumbling over my words. And, you know, and the reason for my call is, you mentioned you would be looking for a house over the next 3 months, and is that still your goal? You know, or you mentioned you were interested in moving to Florida. Is that still your goal, and how can I help you? How can we get started? So having those words to say, so that you're not just calling like, hi, we met at the open house. Do you remember me? Or, you know, something dumb that might automatically come out of my mouth had I not had those scripts up, might have just resulted in an unproductive phone call. Whereas I had the right words to say, and then it elicited the responses that I wanted, and we were able to move forward in a much more productive way.
Do you remember your first sale and where that came from, Karen?
I do. So the first thing I did was got involved with, I was engaged to a divorced boyfriend with 2 young girls who were in a private school. So I started going and asking what volunteer opportunities there might be at school. So I would go to help the kids put their skates on for ice skating during the day. I went to the art teacher and asked what I could do to help um, set up for the shows that she was doing in the hallways and the, you know, the arts nights where the parents were invited in and could see all of their children's artwork. So she and I were standing at a paper cutter, and I said, oh, this is what I was doing all day for my mailing. And she said, oh, what do you do? And I said, I'm a real estate agent with Keller Williams. And she said, oh, how interesting. I'm looking for a house. So that was actually my first sale. And because we spent 3 hours hanging an art show, I got to know everything about her. I got to know about how she had just completed her graduate studies and what her background was. And we developed that natural personal relationship where she felt very comfortable then letting me handle her home search. So I think sometimes people don't realize how important it is to develop a personal connection with that individual first before you're asking for something. If they just met you at an open house and you didn't really have a meaningful, deeper conversation with them where you ask them other questions than just about real estate, they don't feel that connection with you. So I think it's really important to say, you know, what do you do? Are you from Milwaukee? Have you always, you know, how long have you lived here? Do you have children? Show an interest in who they are and what is going on in their lives before you start talking to them about, oh, I have a great house I could show you, because you need to know all those things. Do they have a dog? What is their life like? Do they go out or do they entertain at home? What are their hobbies? What, you know, what is their work schedule like? How much are they home? What do they want home to feel like when they step in the door? Those were all really important things for me to learn so that I could just naturally be that agent that they wanted to reach out to, because I had an understanding of who they were and how they lived or wanted to live and what they were looking for in a new house.
I think that's super, super important. I've been doing this for 7 years, and how I got back into business is because we put our house on the market, and I interviewed 3 agents, or my husband and I did, but I did most of the talking. Surprise. And the third person that we interviewed was Jay Schmidt, who I had heard from a couple of my clients that he was new and, you know, super awesome. The reason that we went with Jay is honestly because he wasn't that experienced. And I'm saying that because he was the most enthusiastic. I didn't feel as though this was another transaction for him. I felt as though he really cares. He is super excited. He's enthusiastic. I didn't care how many homes he sold. I cared because he was interested in our family. And I didn't get that from the other 2 agents that we interviewed. They cared about our house and how quickly it could sell, but there was never one question about us as a family.
I think that's huge. And I think so many new people, and I know I did this too, was I overemphasized the question of how long have you been doing this? I thought that was going to come up in every conversation whenever I met somebody and I had a listing appointment or a buyer agency appointment. I thought they're going to say, how long have you been doing this? And I'm going to feel like an idiot because Janine had given us, you know, a line to use, which was feels like forever. And one man just kind of laughed at that and he said, no, but really. And I just thought, it's not about that. After a while, I realized people would say to me, we chose you because you asked us questions about ourselves, about what we were looking for. They said every other agent that we walked into the open house just tried to sell us that house. It was like, these are the features. This is what this house has to offer. And it's not about that. You know, most of the time when they walk into an open house, it's just the tip of the iceberg for them. They're not even in the market yet. They're just kind of educating themselves. So when you come on too strong, like you're trying to sell them a house, you've already lost. They're just trying to build connections with people. And when you establish a comfort level, that's what makes them want to go with you. And I think, as Janine said of Jay, I am super enthusiastic. If I go to an open house and I feel like I can't bring it, I bring snacks or coffee or whatever I need to get myself. I bring music. I don't like to sit in a quiet open house for 2 hours. So I would bring my little speaker and I'd play music off my phone on the little speaker. So I'd be relaxed. I'd be kind of, moving around the house to the music, and somebody would walk in and I could say, "Hi, how are you today?" Instead of, "Hello, I'm so-and-so from Keller Williams." So it's a mood that you need to create to get in that zone, whatever it is. Be energetic, be excited to meet them, be excited about the fact that they showed up, thank them for coming to your open house first. Don't just jump into some kind of spiel.
Karen, looking back now at your first year, what are maybe the top 3 things that you can share with your agents that you wish you would have done differently? If you have a top 3, I don't know.
I do. I think my biggest mistake early on was that I didn't understand that we weren't all, I thought we were all competitors. So when I would talk to other agents on the phone, on the other side, the listing side or the buyer side, I almost instinctively took a tone where I was fighting for my buyer and I had to suddenly realize that that is totally useless and has no place really in most of your interactions with other agents. When you come with an offer to a listing and there are 10 other offers or however many offers there are, it's so often the track record of that agent bringing that offer that they consider, or their past personal history with you. And so I think the biggest thing is be kind to other agents and realize that what your buyers are asking for or what your sellers are insisting on, that's their business. That's not you. You are not the one that needs to be hard about that. You only need to say, "This is what my buyers would like to have done after the inspection to make everything go smoothly. This is their top 3. And the other things we're going to write in the amendment, but those might be more negotiable." There are ways that you can say things that even if you're handing over an inspection amendment that is brutal, that you can say to the other agent, "Look, I know this, this is a lot of stuff. And it's not necessarily a reflection of everything that has to be done, but these are like their top 4. And I say that to my buyers too, like, okay, there are 5 offers on this house. And so if they don't want to do these things, you have to understand that they might just say no and consider going to the next offer, their best option. So just be a good listener and be a good citizen to the other fellow agents, because that will carry you so far in your career when you are writing competitive offers and somebody goes, "Oh yeah, Janine, I remember working with her. It was a wonderful experience." Or Karen, she was so easy to talk to. She picked up the phone every time I called. She responded every time I emailed or texted her. So remember those things. Be kind to your fellow agents. And then just smile when you're on the phone with other people. That will create the mood and the tone that you want to set. Even if you have to say something that's really not, friendly, even if you have something that is really hard to say, try to just smile and get yourself in a good mood. And, when they answer the phone, say, "Hi, Janine, how are you today?" "Good, glad to hear it." She'll say, "How are you?" We'll set off on a nice foot instead of just jumping into, "Well, look, this is some bad news I have for you. This is what's happening." So always try to be a friendly, accessible person. And if you have to put your foot down about things, then it's easier for them to hear it. You can say it in a way that says, "My buyers really are not going to be able to proceed without having these things taken care of, but they really love the house. They love everything about the house. They're super excited. So I really hope we can put this together." So that's one big thing. The other I think I've already touched on, which is to have the scripts taped up so that you use it when you're in an unnatural situation, like calling somebody cold on the phone. You have something that you are going to follow. And even if you feel like you sound like a robot, the more you say it, the easier it gets. It's like when I was in office equipment sales, my manager would say, you have to flub up the first 10 door knocks before you start to get in the zone and feel comfortable. So just realize, even if it doesn't sound good the first time, it will. You'll start to sound more natural. And then the other thing I already mentioned, which is to make a vision board of what your goals are, why you're doing this, and to put all these pictures and sayings and things on it that remind you of why you are doing this every day, what your number one goal or purpose is for being here and attempting this new challenge. And remind yourself of that every time you sit down at your desk. Take it all in and start your day with a smile on your face and a cup of coffee and some snacks at your desk so you can stay, your butt in your seat. I always had snacks in my drawer in the office, so I didn't have to constantly get up. Chocolate, M&Ms, whatever it takes to keep you there and keep you high energy and in a good mood.
What was the biggest mistake that you've made, and I can tell you mine, during a transaction that you are comfortable sharing, so others don't make that same mistake? Do you have one?
I do. I had a listing, and it was a small house down in Kenosha. And the reason I got the listing was because I was at an open house, and the buyers came in and they decided they wanted to write the offer right then and there with me on my listing. And then they had a house to sell. So I listed their house, and it didn't go right away. It was an area that was a little bit challenged. So when we got our first offer, it was an FHA loan. And being new and not realizing that FHA isn't a bad thing, and it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to present a lot of challenges for your seller, I said, well, can they get conventional financing? Because that would really make it easier. And the agent on the other side of the phone call said, oh, that's all right, never mind, we'll retract our offer, we'll just keep looking. And I said, oh my gosh, I am so sorry. I haven't even talked to my seller yet. I spoke out of turn. I shouldn't have said that. I mean, he was just ready to drop it and say, if you're going to insult my buyer's offer, we're going to just keep looking. You're acting like you're not going to work with us well because it's an FHA loan. And so I talked to other people in the office. I talked to Steph Conard in our North Shore office, and I said, tell me about FHA. Is it really a pain in the butt? Is it going to be like they'll have to fix everything in the house perfectly? Because you can't have any peeling paint, and you can't have any roof issues. You can't have any mechanical, furnace issues. So I talked to her, and she said, I wish people would get over the stigma of FHA. It's really not any different. So anyway, that was my stumbling block in my first year, was that I would make assumptions for my buyers or sellers, and I would try to protect them and their best interests without just saying, thank you so much for this offer, I'll take it to my seller and get back to you. And that's all you need to say. You don't need to make assumptions about how easy or hard it's going to be. Most of the time, I overthought things and I overspoke for my buyers or sellers. And all you have to do is show appreciation for the offer and then take it to your buyer or seller. Tell them what the potential issues might be. See if it's a big deal for them. If it's not, you shouldn't be saying anything about what you think about the offer before you present it. Like, oh, it's 20,000 under, and in this market, blah, blah, blah. Just say, thank you so much for your offer. I'll take it to my seller. Or
that is a great piece of advice, because I hear that all the time. Agents speaking for their buyers or sellers, and I'm thinking, do the buyers or sellers even know that this agent is having this conversation with me?
No.
Stay out of the way. We are facilitators to a transaction. We're not the mouthpiece. We're
Right.
only speak for our client. That's a great piece of advice. And I think that's something that and I did it. I did it probably longer than I should. I felt like I had to win, and it was more about me than it was about my client.
That was exactly my problem. It was like, get out of your own way, lady. You're fighting too much with other agents about things that you haven't even presented to your buyer or seller yet. So I had this same feeling like I had to win, and that's not what it's about. It's about taking every offer and every piece of information to your seller and saying, what do you think about this? Give me your feedback, and then take it back. You need to be neutral. You need to think about being a reporter. You need to stay neutral. Don't get emotional. I got way too emotionally involved with my buyers and sellers. And every time we didn't get an accepted offer, I was heartbroken. I wanted to know why. I wanted to be kind of combative, like we wrote 42,000 over and we didn't get it in my first deal. And I was like, why didn't we get it? And she said, it's not just about the money. And I realized that other people were waiving their inspection contingency, or, other people that had cash were waiving their appraisal contingency. So don't make it personal. Don't get caught up in the emotions of your buyers or sellers. You have to be like a therapist. You really have to be neutral and just keep asking the questions and being the person that helps them understand. And you help everybody come to a place of understanding and agreement is really your role.
Yeah, I always envision myself putting on like a suit of armor to literally protect myself, because I am very empathetic, and I think most everyone on this call is. And I had to protect myself from just literally having it take over my life. So
Right.
I put it on, and when I dealt with clients, I could visualize that. And it really did help me, because then when I was done, I visually took it off. And otherwise it can consume your everyday in and out, and you don't want that to happen.
Right. I think if you are having an emotional reaction to something, don't pick up the phone right then. Just give it some time, let it percolate, make yourself aware it's not about you, and wait before you respond. And there's no problem with waiting an hour or two to respond to a text that seems confrontational, or an email that seems like the deal is falling apart. Just give it some time, think about it, figure out what would it take to maybe come at this from a different angle, and what is this person going through. I had a really good moment at the beginning of COVID where I was having difficulty with a listing, and people were submitting offers and they were copying and pasting into the inspection amendment right from the inspection. So they weren't asking for anything in particular. They were just saying, inspector found this, inspector found that. So I thought, well, what am I supposed to do with this? You
Yeah.
haven't asked for anything specific. So it was getting me kind of upset, because this happened with the first 3 offers on this listing, where agents were just cutting and pasting. And it's a really lazy thing to do, instead of figuring out, okay, how much is that going to cost? Would my buyer rather have a credit for that electrical work after closing to get it done themselves? Or do we need to get this done? If we do need to get it done, then the wording has to be by a licensed contractor or licensed electrician. They weren't doing that. So I was getting upset and getting on the phone and kind of coming at them like, what am I supposed to do with this inspection amendment? This is, there's no prerogative, there's no directive here. And I had agents that were all responding differently to, shelter in place and not feeling comfortable with their business. And the first thing they asked me is, are you okay? Are you all right? Like, mentally, am I okay? Physically, am I okay? Am I feeling sick? Am I feeling run down? And I thought, oh my gosh, yes, I have to remind myself constantly, we are all coming at this from a really challenged place right now. We are all uncomfortable with how we now need to conduct our business. Often we're not face-to-face enough with our clients like we were in the past, where we really feel in the zone and comfortable with the way we're handling our business. And it often comes out in texts or phone calls or responses to other agents. And it's really easy to escalate things when we don't mean to. And I think it's really important to make that like the first thing when you're talking to somebody. Are you doing okay? How are you doing in this crisis? How are you dealing with the pandemic? How's your family? And to show that empathy to the other agent and to the other people that you're involved with in a transaction.
And I would say even more so now, because even though I'm on vacation, I'm still talking to agents from different brokerages, and literally the first 5 minutes is all about their mental well-being, how exhausted they are, and putting their kids back into school or taking them off to college and all of the unknown. And if you can make nice with that co-broke, that transaction is going to go so much smoother than if you are there to win.
Right.
Don't you think?
Yeah, in that situation, I didn't even realize that the other co-broke was not in town. She was in Arizona undergoing a therapy for cancer. And somebody else, a different agent in her brokerage, had shown them the listing and was dealing with them and had written that inspection amendment. So here I am getting kind of upset with her, and she was a seasoned 10-year in the business agent. And I thought, what 10-year in the business agent would write an inspection amendment like this? And when I actually got her on the phone and we started opening up and talking to each other, she said, my clients don't know about my illness. My clients don't know that I'm in Arizona or why I have another agent covering my business. I'm here for a therapy that I can't get in Wisconsin. And all of a sudden, I just felt like the biggest idiot. Like Janine said, if you're there to win and you aren't taking into consideration what other people are going through, you're not connecting in a meaningful way with that person. And that will leave, a mental impression with them that you are not a good listener. You're not a good co-broke to work with. So be a human being first and foremost, and listen and find out what's going on in their lives, and look for clues, because often people won't want to say. They won't want to say, oh, I'm actually out of town. Someone else is handling this for me. That's embarrassing for them to acknowledge. And like a lot of us now, we are handling our transactions from a greater and greater distance. We might be taking this time to travel or be with family, and find those things out first, like what's going on in your life.
Right. Absolutely. Karen, let's dial back into your goals. Can you tell us about your production, like your first year? What were your goals and what did you achieve?
Sure. I really didn't know when I went to all the trainings in the beginning what to write for my goals. I really didn't feel like I was being realistic. So I wrote lofty goals of, I'm going to do 24 transactions my first year. I'm going to make 120,000. And Charlie said to me, if you have 24 transactions, you're going to make a lot more than 120,000. And it was like I hadn't put that together, mathematically yet. I just had this vision of, I'm a go-getter. I know what I can accomplish. I'm going to go do this. So I found that in my first 5 transactions, which took up the portion of my first year from April until December, I only had 5 transactions. And it was because I was getting super involved in all of the paperwork and all of the steps and processes of getting an accepted offer to closing, or on the listing side, getting my listing to closing. And I hadn't hired a transaction coordinator yet. So starting December, I decided I really was just going to hire a transaction coordinator and focus on getting 24 transactions, whether those were listings or buyers. And I ended up with 23 my first full year in the business, and I did make a lot better than 120,000. And I just kind of blew me away. As I started adding up, what I was doing, I was one of these agents that always looked down and ran from appointment to, showing to closings. And I never really looked at the wake I was creating. And I think that was really good for me, because I didn't super focus on, oh my gosh, I'm not where I want to be yet. And in April of that year, I realized I was going to hit my goal. And it was just because of the path I was on and how much I had going on. And it made me feel really good. And it gave me the confidence to keep pushing and to keep working hard and to keep running at that pace. Because I thought, what else could I be doing where I would be making this kind of money my first year? So that was what was going on in my head, was I'm gonna break my ceiling by quite a bit of what I thought I was going to be able to make.
And how about your second year? Same?
Well, yeah, only COVID came along, and I, I've only been doing this 2 years and a couple of months. So I have started to look at things differently now that I have a lot more confidence in this. So I've started to look at what do I want my life to look like? What do I want my personal life to look like? What do I want my relationships with other people to look like? And I've started to dial back a little bit on the run running and start to just reboot my business again from just my sphere and my personal relationships with other people and make that my priority. So I'm thinking much more long-term about building my business over the next 5 years and where I want that business to come from and how I don't want to be on the phone at 7, 8, 9 at night talking to clients. I want to be able to say I work from 8 until 8 and I'll get back to you tomorrow if you try to reach out to me after 8. Whereas my first year, I was taking phone calls and texts at 11 at night for showing requests and setting them up and responding and saying, sure, we can be there at 8 tomorrow morning. You know, so I would go to bed working and I would wake up to texts at 6:30 a.m. that were, you know, involved with work. And finally I had to say, look, I'm sorry, I'm on my walk. Can I call you after 8 or can I get back to you after 9? So that's the luxury that this business can afford you, is you can make your business as big or as small as you want, depending on what else you have going on in your life. And that's why I think I will be doing this into my 80s, because I really can't think of any other place that I could have this kind of flexibility to turn it up or turn it down, you know, turn the burner up or turn the burner down to fit what I want the rest of my life to look like.
Right, because I feel like every year is a different story for us personally. And, you know, before people hopped on the call, you were talking about how old is your mom? In her 90s, right?
My mom is 93 and she's with us right now for 2
Yeah.
months. And she just went through another knee replacement surgery. So she never, because of COVID, she never got to all of her physical therapy appointments. She only got to the first one, and it got too hot where she lives in Scottsdale to go outside. So she's really not regained muscle tone and things like that. So we put her in sunglasses and a mask and got her a direct flight and got her here, and we're just working on that now and just kind of, you know, enjoying this time. So that's what I love about being in real estate, is that I can shift my priorities when I need to, and I can let people know what's going on in my life and they understand, and I can still do everything I need to do from home, from, you know, whether I'm on a walk with my phone or whether I'm at home on my computer. But it's a much different feeling for me now. I'm in a much different place. You know, I don't feel like I have to respond to every text in 5 seconds. I don't have to rush home to write an offer. I realize that a lot of those negotiations will take a couple days, and it's not as frantic and as urgent as I made it in my first year.
Yeah, that is, and also we train our clients how they're going to interact with us. So right. I feel the same way. In the beginning, if there was a text, man, I would be like texting them right back. Not any longer. They, I think, have learned the difference between a 411 and a 911. And if it's a 911, I am all over it. If it's a right. 411, I will get back to you. Right. I don't say it like that, but that's kind of my, another tip that I have done is for the first 30 minutes before and after I go to bed, I have absolutely no interaction with my computer or my phone. Right. So I go to bed, I put my phone in my closet and charge it. Mm-hmm. And when I get up, that's not what I look at first thing in the morning.
Right.
That's not going to rule my life. And I have a much better productive day without starting out with, oh my God, what's happened? You know, not a good way to live.
Right. When you have your phone next to the bed and somebody texts you at 5:45 about some houses they'd like to see, that's not the way I want to wake up. So I do the same thing. I plug in my phone downstairs. I don't hear it when I'm in bed. I get up and I, you know, spend the first 10 minutes just kind of doing a meditation or thinking about what I want my day to look like. What do I want to accomplish? What are my priorities for that day? Otherwise, you will just get burned out. You will let your clients run you ragged if you think that everything is urgent and everything is frantic, and that shows what a great involved agent you are. You do set the guideline by responding at 11:30 at night. And maybe when you're brand new, like I did, you feel like you have to do that to earn everybody's confidence and trust, because otherwise they're going to say, how long have you been doing this? And you're going to feel like, oh, 2 months, you're going to feel like they won't want to do business with me. But yeah, you will get burned out in this industry if you continue to do that. So you have to just not respond to the text, let it go until 8 o'clock when it's time to respond to it. If it's just, what about this listing? What about that listing? When can we see this? I let them know by my behavior when my hours start and finish.
And that's a really hard lesson to learn. It really is a tough one. And that, I think, comes with time. It's not going to happen necessarily right away. And on the flip side of that, I see a lot of agents that their response time is absolutely horrifying. And don't be that person either.
Right.
Because if a client reaches out to me, I'm not going to wait until the end of the day to get back to them if I can help it. Or I will text them and say, I got your call. Are you available between this and this time? So they, you're still interacting. But again, a 911 versus a 411. Yeah. Right. Does anyone here in class have any questions? You can unmute yourself and ask Karen, because she's a wealth of information. And I can't see any comments because I'm outside and can't see it all. So if anyone has anything they'd like to say or ask.
I do.
Yay.
Good.
Yay.
Okay, well, I do like what you said about, when you're new, you feel like everyone's going to be like, well, how many houses have you sold and this and that? And I'm still new and I haven't had anyone ask me that. And I think some of the people that I've been working with, they know I'm new anyways, and they've decided, because we have a relationship, that's like, we don't care. She's going to do a good job because
Right.
she has our best interest at heart. And I always tell them I have a team that I can go to if I don't know an answer. So I like that. But I wanted to know too, it's like, where is a good resource to go for the scripts? Like, not weird scripts, like actual scripts that a normal person would actually say.
Yeah.
Well, Janine, maybe you can speak to that better.
I have some, and I know Karen does too. And I would be more than happy to next week share some of these scripts, and I can role play with Connie, and then we can share them with you guys and you can download them.
Yeah, because I know, like, I did the whole bold thing and all that kind of stuff, and I got stuff out of it, but it was also really overwhelming, and I couldn't do 40 contacts a day during COVID, and it felt like, I like how Karen said, she's just working on being genuine and making relationships rather than just calling people like, hey, I'm selling. Do you want to sell? Do you want to buy? It's just being hardcore.
Right.
So, right now, what I've been doing, you guys.
Well, Janine, we can't hear you.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. What I have been doing is making care calls. I don't even talk about real estate. I'll call past clients, friends, potential clients, people that have stopped into my open houses. I'm just checking in with you. How are you doing? And I just shut up and let them talk. And maybe it comes to real estate and maybe it doesn't. But I feel as though those are the most impactful and prepared if they do want to talk about real estate. But I actually just call and say, hey, how's it going? How are you and your family? Open houses, we have a great open house script. We call it the golden open house script. It works. And we can talk about that and role play that next week as well, because that's very impactful.
Yeah, I think role playing is the biggest thing to get through, the biggest hurdle to get through with the scripts, because if you do read the scripts, they just really sound unnatural. But as you role play it with people, you will change the words around and make it more natural to yourself. But you also want to keep the basic things in there, because there is, in the script, there's a hook that provides them the need to answer you. And you want to make sure you keep those things in there, because so often we modify it to make it too soft and it doesn't really require anything from them.
Yeah, I think that I'm fine talking to people and I can make connections, but sometimes I have a hard time asking for the business,
Mm-hmm.
you know, gently asking for the business.
Yeah, and I think, as Janine said, if you're making care calls and you're finding out where things are at with people, then you can just gently remind them at the end, as a realtor, I really look out for people's interests, and I just want you to feel comfortable coming to me anytime if you're thinking that you might be needing to make a switch for your family.
Yeah.
So it can be that, natural. It doesn't have to be, who do you know that's looking to buy or sell, or are you looking to buy or sell? Because often, who wants to acknowledge that they're in a financial hardship and might need to sell their home because they've both lost their jobs? But just asking how they are and showing genuine care and concern, and then just reminding them, as a realtor, I really look out for my clients. And if there's anything ever that I can help you with, or educate you on the market, or give you any options that you might want to consider, please reach out to me as a resource.
Yep.
So I don't know, do you have anything to add to that?
I also, yeah, I think that's awesome. And also if you are not doing open houses, or you can't find one to do, take that Saturday or Sunday and go and drop in to as many open houses that you possibly can, and see how other agents are doing their job. You'll learn more of what not to do than anything.
That's a big thing.
Note to self: when someone walks in that front door, get off of your chair and greet them. Look happy that they've walked into the house. I did that for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
That was super impactful to me. And I took what I liked and what I didn't like, and then I kind of morphed it into myself. I don't like to be followed around when I'm looking at a house or trying on clothes. So I don't think anyone does. So I was, my approach is, take a look around, and if you don't mind, can I ask for your feedback before you leave? Of course, you want them to respond with a yes. So as many of those yes responses that you can get. And I never have them sign in ever, but that's me. I get their information with my own handwriting in a way that now I have permission to follow up with them. I am not going to have them sign in, and I'm not going to hound them down. Only if they want.
Mm-hmm.
And most of them do, unless they're working with an agent. They just won't tell you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really use that a lot too, was to look at other people's methods of performing open houses. And I found, to my horror, that there are a lot of people that just stand there on their phone texting the whole time. They nod at the person walking in. They don't get up. They say, have a look around. Let me know if you have any questions. And then they look back at their phone. And I thought, that's awful. And they're not getting anything out of being there. So why are they even doing the open house? Unless it's their listing and they're just trying to hold it open to sell it, but they're not going to get any buyers that way.
And you don't know who's walking in that open house. That could be a neighbor that's looking at the neighbor's house to see what it looks like, and they're kind of thinking about putting their house on the market. You're being interviewed.
Right.
Can I ask you a follow-up to what you were talking about with the sign-in sheet?
Sure. About not having one?
Yes, because I am so averse to them as well. So when you said you document people's information, what does that look like? I would prefer to not use sign-in sheets as well. So I like that you said that, because it's not typical, but I think that is so uncomfortable. How do you have that conversation if you don't, I don't know, do you just say like, I'd love to follow up with you if you have any questions, or do you wait for them?
Yep. So there is an open house script. So basically, someone comes in through the front door. I'll introduce myself and I'll say, would you like a guided tour, or would you like to look on your own? 99% of the time, they're going to say, we'll look on our own. And I said, great. If you wouldn't mind, would you give me some feedback when you're done? Sure. So they come back. I said, so what did you think? And I'll listen to them, and, you know, they'll tell me what they think. Then I'll say to them, how did you find out about this property? Oh, Trulia, Zillow, blah, blah, blah. Oh, so you're finding out about properties just like everybody else. Yeah. Would you be interested in finding out about properties weeks, if not months, before they go on the market? Well, absolutely. Awesome. Great. What is your name, phone number, email address? That's it.
Oh, perfect. Thank you so much.
Yes. If they let me know, if they tell me they're working with an agent, then I stop. So I'm not interested in gathering information of those who are working with an agent. I do have a stack of my cards, you know, by the door. So they may say they're working with an agent, and I'll ask them who it is. 9 out of 10, they can't remember. But that's fine. I'm not gonna proceed. But I notice sometimes people will take my card because they're not working with an agent.
Mhm. Right.
Yeah.
I have, oh, go ahead.
No, and everyone's different. So Karen, what do you do?
I do something similar. I say, would you like me to show you the house, or would you like to look around on your own? And as Janine said, most people will like to look around on their own. And I just ask them more questions as they come in. I say, what brought you here today? You know, and they'll say, I'm a nosy neighbor. And then I'll say, oh, were you thinking about maybe what things are selling for in the market, about potentially selling sometime in the future? And they'll say, yeah, well, you know, in the next year or two, we might downsize to a condo. So I ask some questions that are really non-threatening, and get them to open up and start talking to me. And then same thing, if you wouldn't mind giving me some feedback for the seller before you leave. And then when I get the feedback, I say, are you working with anyone currently? And they say no. And then I say, well, I'd love to help you in your search. You know, can you tell me a little bit about what you're looking for, and give me a good phone number and email to reach you at? So it is much nicer when you are just holding the pad and writing down that information, rather than saying to them, you have to sign it. And then following up with them like they didn't give you permission necessarily to call them. And a lot of people will say, I'm just going to put my name because I don't want to be contacted. And yet if we start having a natural conversation, then I get another opportunity to ask, oh, might you be interested in listing your house in the next couple of years? And they say yes. I say, okay, well, would you mind if I keep in touch? Can you tell me what a good phone number to call you at is? Then they suddenly feel comfortable giving me that information that they didn't feel comfortable writing down when they walked in the house, because they don't know who you are and they don't know if you're going to hound them. And you can say something like, I promise I won't hound you. I just want to maybe touch base every 3 months, see where you're at. And if I can help, great. And if you're not ready, no problem.
Yep. And with that, I think that the biggest challenge for most agents, including myself, is actually following up with those people.
Right.
So yeah, don't you think, Karen? So how do you follow up? What's your system?
You have to get them into a system. At first, when I started, we used e-edge, and now everything's going to command. I'm not the greatest at switching over everything into command, but I also do use just like the week at a glance calendars that have all the little lines. And so sometimes I'll just flip 3 months forward and write who I'm going to call that day 3 months from now. But I also still use the e-edge, and that reminds me of who I put in the database and who I want to call in 3 months or 6 months.
Yeah, you'd be surprised. 3, 6, 9, 1 year, 2 years. I've gotten sales that I thought, oh my gosh, I'll never see these people again. And a year and a half later, they'll call and say, I met you at an open house and we are really now ready to go. Can you come over and take a look at our house? Because most of these buyers, you guys, are sellers.
Right.
So
I'm getting a listing right now where I did an open house a year and a half ago. And after the open house, well, some people walked in that lived in the building. It was a condo. And they said, oh, maybe when you're done here, you can come look at ours. We're not selling, we just bought, but we're doing all these improvements and we'll show you what we're doing. And I went up after the open house, knocked on the door. They invited me in. They showed me all the changes they had made to their condo. And a year and a half later, he says, I'm calling you because you made such an impression on me with how friendly you were and the fact that you wanted to come up and check out our condo, even though we weren't in the market. Now we are in the market and we want you to list and help us buy a place, you know, a house somewhere. So
Wow.
I think
There you go.
the thing that people don't realize is that you're making an impression whether there's any opportunity there right now or not. And if that impression sticks a year and a half, 2 years later, you're going to make that sale down the road. You just have to be genuine and be interested in people. And the other thing that the seller said to me is the person I bought this this condo with is a really good agent, but he never would have done what you did. He never like opened up and was friendly. He was always just professional. And the fact that you showed an interest in us is why I'm calling you and working with you.
Yep. That's awesome. And it all goes back to authentic relationships and being authentic, because you can smell a salesperson regardless of what they're selling. You can smell desperation 10 miles away.
Right.
So, and you might be desperate. It's your job to eliminate that and come from contribution and being authentic. As corny as that may sound, that's what's going to keep you in business and make you very successful. It really is.
I agree.
Any other questions?
I don't really have a question, but I have a comment for all of us new COVID agents. I know that the big thing was like, you know, during COVID, do the care calls and all that kind of stuff. So I think that we have just been kind of growing up with that whole mindset. And I know on our Tuesday launch coaching call, one of the things was like, as new agents, we're not as busy during this period as some of the seasoned agents, because we don't have that network of people that are customers, clients already. And
Yep.
so it's like just being patient and not comparing your business right now as a new agent compared to, you know, the ones that are like pulling their hair out. They're so
Yep.
busy, and
Yep.
we're not as busy as they are. And it makes us feel like we're not doing the right stuff. But even though we are, because we're laying the groundwork,
Yes.
but sometimes it's hard to, like, you know, kind of reassure, you know, I'm doing the right things. I don't want to get that desperate feeling, you know.
Don't.
That's tough.
My line is, don't compare your insides to someone's outsides. This business, any sales job can eat you up if you let it.
Mm-hmm.
I think the best thing to do to alleviate a lot of that is to follow a schedule. Whether you are, you know, with a client, or if you don't have any clients, follow a schedule so you have some order in your life. So if it's from 8 until 3 o'clock, follow a schedule. I'm going to look at all the expired listings that expired 3 years ago and see what happened to those properties. And I'm going to write them a letter, because they were on the market at one point or another. Why did they take it off the market? I heard that somebody in the office has a buyer in this particular area for this particular amount. Then I'm going to go on MLS and I'm going to look in that area through the tax records, and I'm going to write a letter to certain addresses to see if I can find a seller that might be looking to sell. There are all kinds of things that you can do to be creative that will keep you busy. I'm going to master searches in MLS from 10 until noon on Wednesday, and I'm going to do that twice a week. So I think as long as you're keeping your fingers in it and being proactive and having a schedule is going to be very helpful. And even in the best of times, some agents like take off right away and they're going gangbusters. And a couple years later, you don't even know who those people are anymore because they're no longer in business. So do what's right for you and just keep it steady and keep your chin up. And have an accountability partner. Find someone that's in the launch group that you align yourself with and keep yourself accountable. You know, like, hey, do you want to go and do a couple open houses this weekend together and see, you know, what other brokerages are doing? You know, create your own little map, because this is your business, you know, it's not my business, it's your business. So how are you going to be the best when this whole COVID thing ends? Be prepared to run, and just keep in contact with your database, as big or small as it may be. Karen had a very interesting, we were discussing referrals and how she's been really working on referring her friends and family to other agents around the United States. And what a great, I mean, that's 25% right away into your pocket when that transaction sells. So, you know, think about the people all over the United States, all over the country, actually, of keeping in touch with them about their real estate needs.
I think, Bethany, for me, it's been really good that I have a dog and that I'm getting out and talking to a lot of people on dog walks. I'm inviting people for backyard doggy play dates. I'm just, if I have a meeting with a buyer client, I'm doing it outside at a picnic table instead of inside with a mask on. Just, I'm doing whatever I need to do to be comfortable interacting with people, because I am a very social person and I could easily just get cut off and depressed. So it's a great time too to be writing notes. I think one of the things I did every day when I was new was write at least 10 to 20 thank you notes. And it's just, thank you for coming to my open house. It was really a pleasure to meet you, or writing thank you notes to people that I knew just to keep in front of them, like, thanks for reaching out the other day, or whatever it is. If there are people that you can show gratitude to, do that. And they will just be so shocked to get a handwritten thank you note from you in the mail. And that will, you know, I do put my business card in it. I know a lot of people just keep it really personal, but I don't bring up business in the note, but maybe I just have like the business address of KW on the return address label, or I do slip a business card in it. And I've had a bunch of neighbors now say to me, oh, I didn't know you were a realtor. Give me your card, drop off your card. So I wouldn't go door knocking right now. I don't think that's a good idea, or do door hangings, but certainly people appreciate thank you notes or handwritten notes. And this is a great time to be doing that. And then, like Janine said, making the care calls and reaching out to people and just saying, if you know of any family members or friends that might be interested in a move, I can refer a great agent to them and make sure they have a super transaction. And then you get 25% of that by hooking them up with somebody somewhere else.
And you know what, even if you called, if you have a friends and family in town, a great thing to do is, you know what, I'm going to be practicing my my skills, my CMA, my market analysis skills. So I would like to take your address and kind of give you what I think your house, if you were to go on the market today, what that would look like. Really good practice. And literally go over to their house, take notes, list of improvements, and have a market analysis done for them. That is such great practice. And then put it on social media. I have gotten listings from friends of friends of friends that, oh, I heard you went over to Sally Johnson's house, and actually I'm interested if you want to come over and take a look at my house. Guess what? Those people at some point are going to sell, and they're going to call you. So practice. It's really fun.
It is. It's a great time to be practicing.
Yeah. And if you're, you know, have a lot of time on your hands, maybe start emailing or calling some of these busy agents and say, is there anything that I can help you with? Can I go on a home inspection for you? Or anything that you can do to just keep yourself busy and educating yourself. Anything else?
Yes.
Yes.
So I haven't heard too much about referrals, so I don't really know exactly how they work, but I'm guessing it's like, you know, you refer another agent to someone who is looking and you get, is it 25%?
It is. Yeah, it's typically 25%.
So what's to say someone wouldn't just get their license and just start referring everybody they know to someone else and never doing any work?
You can do
Oh
that.
yeah.
Do
And
people
guess
do that?
what?
Okay.
Oh yes, you can.
They
There
can-
are people within Keller Williams, Aaron Kaufman, for an example, that I don't even think Aaron has his real estate license. All he does is refer. Actually, he does. He recruits agents and he refers buyers and sellers.
Okay.
And they never sell one piece of real estate.
Mhm.
Is that looked down upon at all, or is that like it just is?
No.
what it is?
No.
No.
No,
Nope.
that-
Want to be like that person, or like know someone that does that, and have bad.
If you
blood.
refer a buyer to someone, you have to have your real estate license. And I know people that's all they do is just refer out of state clients. And then there are agents or non-agents that they recruit for Keller Williams and to all different market centers all over the United States through their network. And they haven't sold one piece of real estate. There's one in particular, I think it was last year or the year before, made over $1 million, did not sell one piece of real estate.
Wow.
wow.
How do you make sure that someone gets paid the referral fee? Like, what if someone sells the house and then is just like, well, I'm gonna keep all the money?
Nope. So there is a form that you fill out with all of your information, the market center information,
Okay.
and then that check then is through the market center that you get. And it's amazing. My dad sold his house, my mother-in-law, I referred buyers to an agent out in Tennessee, all over.
Mhm.
Talked to the agent, sent the form over, and very lucrative.
And is that's not only in Keller Williams, that can be to any brokerage?
Right.
And so you said that they don't have to have their license technically to refer?
They do to refer.
They do.
Oh,
if
okay.
they're referring a buyer or seller, but to recruit an
Okay.
agent into Keller Williams, you do not have to have your license.
How do you make sure, so you can make money by recruiting someone if they like join
Yes.
the team? Okay. And how do you make sure you get that?
So when you're recruiting, or if someone is getting their license and you find out about it, what I do is I have a conversation with them and say, when you sit down with the team leader, make sure that you let them know that I was the influencer that brought you to this meeting, and then they'll name you. And you also let that team leader know that
Right.
this
Okay.
person is going to reach out.
So if I've connected them myself to like Mandy or Charlie, then they'll already know that.
Yeah, but I would call Mandy and Charlie and say, hey, I gave your number to this person. I just want you to, to make sure that you know that.
Okay.
And how does that make you money?
So that's all in a profit sharing. It's all profit sharing.
Oh,
So
okay.
you're building your downline. It's a really good question, but until they cap, a percentage goes back to the market center and you get a certain percentage of that. And then if they recruit someone, they're in your downline. So it takes time, but it is passive income. And of course, you want to make sure when you're having a conversation with someone that they're going to be someone that's going to be a great fit for Keller Williams, that's going to be a hard worker and has, the same ethics and values that we all have. And I think that's why Keller Williams has such a great reputation, is because we're just full of awesome people. And that downline of yours is willable. So if I were to pass away, I can will that to my children. So as long as those agents are in production, they would still be able to benefit from my downline forever. It's super cool, you guys.
Yeah.
I never paid attention to it. I never really did anything with it up until like 3-4 years ago. And the benefits are amazing. and I get a text from Charlie, profit sharing, this is how much is actually deposited into your account. You don't get a check, they direct deposit it.
Yeah, I feel like being new, it's like you're just focusing very narrowly on just building your business, and it's like not even paying attention. Like I don't even pay attention to like how much even going to make on the transaction. I'm just working on getting a transaction.
Right.
Right.
Well,
You know,
yeah.
and letting everything else fall into place, you know, and it's like, you know, then you kind of build a business, and then you can start paying attention to that kind of stuff. And the referrals and stuff is kind of outside, but referral sounds like just an easy way
Absolutely.
get business, make money without having to do the business, I guess.
Yep. Yep. And I think it all starts from, you know, what is it that you want? And first thing I did when I got my license had nothing really to do with the transactions, was I did a vision board. I got
That's on my list to do today.
Yep. I got
Arts
a
and
big
crafts.
poster board, and I didn't overthink it. Anything that looked attractive to me, or I wanted, or I could see myself doing or living, I would cut it out.
Mhm.
And I put it in my closet because that's, you know, where I was most of the time, when in and out, beginning of the day, end of the day. And that took over. It took over. I do one every single year, and I 100% believe in it.
I have to say, I know that I got a couple deals from Facebook, and people, you know, there are people that really like Facebook and use it a lot, and there are people that are in real estate that have not made a post in months. I post a lot of stuff. I post professional stuff and personal stuff, but I do have a business Facebook page, and I think that's really important if you haven't created a business Facebook page yet, to put interesting articles on there about what's going on in the market. You know, every time you see something, to just put it on your business page. If it pertains to what's going on right now with buying and selling houses, that way you're not always speaking, you're informing and educating. And I have had, you know, in reference to Jackie's question about can it be a different brokerage, I had an EXP agent out in Denver reach out to me and say, I have friends who are selling their house in Bayside, and they had a former agent and didn't do very well for them, had several offers, but they all fell through, and I'm reaching out to you. And I said, why are you reaching out to me instead of another EXP agent? And he said, I called a couple of EXP agents in Milwaukee, and I wasn't impressed with the way they were going to handle it. And I've been a friend of yours on Facebook, and I see your posts and I see what you're up to, and I would like you to list my friend's house. So don't underestimate the value of Facebook. I've also gotten another listing because I've connected with old friends on Facebook, and she sees all my posts about open houses and about closings. And she says, I have friends that have tried for 10 years to sell their house. They've had 3 different agents and they've tried to sell it themselves. I think you can help them. So it's important what you put out there, and you'll be surprised what comes to you because of it.
Yep. Don't be an invisible agent. Don't be a secret agent.
Yeah, this is a great time to bump up your marketing, and it's all free. Just create a business page on Facebook. If you post something on your business page, I also share it to my personal page. So if people click on it, it takes them to my business page. Every time I make new friends on Facebook, I invite them to like my business page. So it just is constantly reinforcing I'm not just this person with a dog and with a mom, and that I'm, you know, out on walks or whatever and admiring flowers and gardening. But I've also joined a bunch of, you know, North Shore Dogs and Wisconsin gardeners groups, and those people see that I'm a real estate agent. So it just keeps billowing out from there. You invite people to like your business page, and they're like, oh, I like this woman on Facebook, and she's also a realtor. Let's ask her what she thinks. So it's a great way for free for you to market yourself really well.
The wider net
Karen, one
that you
thing,
cast, the more business you're going to have.
Right.
Karen, one thing that you do that I like is that you always put in some tricky hook, like you ask people what their opinion is, or it's not just that you're posting something, you're trying to get them to interact.
Right. I had someone comment on that because I don't have the plant snap identifier, but I always am on walks admiring plants, then I don't know what they are. So I say, anyone know what this is? So I get this interaction going where people say, hey, I'm going to have you join this gardeners group or this, you know, native landscaping group or whatever. And One of my buyer clients commented, "Hey, I like this game. You know, what else have you got?"
I like
So
that.
it's a nice way to just get people interacting and talking with you on something that you also share common interests in, whether it be through your kids or their sports or hobbies or, you know, whatever it is. Be true to yourself. You will find people because of what your interests are and the common interests you share with other people.
Yep.
I had a question. So I'm on Facebook and LinkedIn, and you get random requests from people who want to be your friend who are agents in different parts of the country. How do you qualify those people so that if you ever were to refer to them, you wouldn't refer a good relative or a friend to a dud kind of person?
I always ask, I often will go onto our KW North Shore group and say I need, or there's now the KW referral group. I ask who knows of someone, who has dealt with someone personally that I can refer my friend to in Florida, or my sister is looking in Boise, Idaho, and who do you know of? Often somebody I really trust, like Charlie, will respond first and say, this person, you know, bar
Yeah.
none. And I do go and investigate them. I look at their website. I look at their business page on Facebook. I look at their personal profile on Facebook before I call them. And then when I call them, I say, you know, how do you run your business? And then if I trust them, I say, I have a nephew or a niece or a family member or a friend looking, and I think you'd be a good fit. But if that person reaches out to me again and says, that person never called me back, I will refer them to somebody else, and I'll say, I'm sorry, I've asked somebody else to step in here because you didn't respond to them or get back to them. So, I mean, you don't want to respond somebody to a dud, and you do want to follow through, and you want to make sure that they're happy with the person you referred. And if not, give them a choice, or right off the bat, give them a choice. Say, I'm going to refer both of you, but before I fill out a referral form, I'm going to let them choose who they like the best.
Good.
Yep. And you'll be surprised. You can investigate and research someone to death like I did for my mother-in-law's house in Prescott, Arizona, and she was the worst agent I have ever dealt with in my life. So you just never know. It's really interesting. So, you know, you just, some of it is after you research, have a really candid conversation about what your client's expectations are and how you work, and see if your work ethic is the same. And if it's not, find somebody else.
Right. Anything else?
Well, thank you guys.